Alright, so this is a quick video on the state of VR gaming, specifically Ubisoft and AAA titles coming to Quest and other platforms. This isn't a good look for VR since publishers like Ubisoft have stated in a Q&A section of the company's Q3 2023 fiscal year earnings call to say that they are disappointed in the performance of Assassins Creed Nexus VR. Here's the full response. Sorry if I butchered the name, from CEO of Ubisoft, Yves Guillemot, and it pretty much states that they are disappointed in Nexus's VR sales and that they were hoping to sell more, and for now they are not increasing their investment as they need a larger user base to at least make a profit from. This is a pretty big statement painting a picture on the state of AAA games coming to MetaQuest and other VR platforms. To us, it's just news, but bet others like Capcom, EA, ABK listen very closely. You can break down the quote many ways, whether that's blaming Meta for its platform exclusivity or painting a picture on VR gaming's slow doom. However, you need context. First off, Assassins Creed Nexus VR is exclusive to Quest and it has sold well and continues to do so, but with gaming companies, specifically CEOs, they aren't too worried about the quality of their games. This news isn't entirely reflective of VR. A CEO's responsibility lies in making more and more profit for its shareholders. Ubisoft isn't in an investment phase where they can develop games for another medium in hopes of it taking off in the near future. Ubisoft is in a state where they need the money now. There were reports of Ubisoft looking for an acquisition and getting laughed at in their faces. This came at a time when Activision Blizzard King and Microsoft purchase was at its peak. Also, a year ago, that's when we got the news of Ubisoft having a bad time financially, leading them to canceling unannounced games. Those games being Ghost Recon Frontlines, a FPS Warzone competitor, Splinter Cell VR, and other 4 games that were supposedly in the works. To be honest with you, I would rather get a Splinter Cell VR game or any Tom Clancy labeled project. Ubisoft has also had plenty of other entries, but for VR, but Nexus was putting their investment to the test if it was truly worthwhile to develop for. To top that, they also had major flops that aren't VR, like Rainbow Six Extraction. There was also rumors and leaks that there was already plans for a sequel to Nexus, Assassin's Creed Nexus VR 2, or another iteration of it. But as of right now, that's pretty much dead until the VR user base gets substantially larger. With that, Ubisoft stock is still in a very similar position to a year ago, which isn't the end of the world, but they are in a bad spot. All this information to say that this isn't the end of VR gaming at all, where Ubisoft needs the money now compared to Meta's roadmap is 10 years long and they have unlimited funds, as even with PlayStation, all the current big VR or ports require external funding or first-party support like Gran Turismo 7, Resident Evil, Guerrilla Legends, Medal of Honor, etc. Companies are still very hesitant to create experiences like Asgard's Wrath 2 as the user base is still extremely small to be viable at a large scale. We see Meta have to take on issues regarding user retention and playtime. With Meta's Quest Plus subscription service, they want people coming back for more and using their devices frequently, and getting more users seems to be a hurdle still. This may not be a popular take, but I don't think AAA games will save or make the platform. If you've been in VR for the past 4 years or so, there was always discussion and the need for AAA quality games to make VR go mainstream. Ubisoft deciding to wait until the time is right isn't all that bad, and even games like Half-Life Alyx, as acclaimed as they are, VR still has a long way to go. But I will say virtual reality needs AAA games to get more eyes and people interested with their favorite games that otherwise they wouldn't have taken interest or cared about. And to that, when Assassin's Creed VR came out, people who didn't mention anything about VR, suddenly a Quest 3 sponsorship video came out on my subscription feed. But that is to say that VR isn't reliant on publishers like Ubisoft in order to make it big right now. AAA games are fun and usually on the first try, and unless it's groundbreaking, one playthrough usually is enough. You see this with PlayStation and their exclusives. Making AAA quality games requires a lot of time, work, and money. Then PlayStation put their sights on live service games to be an answer to their problems to increase their profits while minimizing development time. Creating a Warzone, Fortnite, or Roblox sounds easier than it actually is. is, but once it's done, it's essentially just a money printing machine. And games like Gorilla Tag, Palworld, and Lethal Company become overnight successes without the hefty initial funding that is required and needed to develop AAA games. The biggest hits to the platform on Quest have been games like Gorilla Tag VR Chat, Beat Saber, Job Simulator, Ghost of Tabor, Pavlov, Blade and Sorcery, and Thrill of the Fight. A lot of these games are best played in sessions and lean more on the live service tag, with continued free updates or paid DLC over the years after release. Or they are just casual games that can be played by anyone with a sim aspect or fitness, or lean on a huge community of modders and custom apps. For me, my most played not only VR games but games of all time include Beat Saber, Onward VR, The Finals, and Battlefield 1, and all of these games include multiplayer. That is to say, even if major publishers leave and wait for the full moon to dawn on VR, it will be perfectly fine. VR has always been made up by people developing games and mechanics as passion projects. VR isn't big enough to have that base or audience that attracts people to anticipate events like an Xbox Showcase, PlayStation State of Play, or Nintendo Direct that hypes up games and its releases. VR gaming is fine and will continue to grow. Another thing I wanted to mention why the game is exclusive to MetaQuest is that in part it's a meta-funded project that without it would have likely not happened or happened sooner. I see people point out that exclusivity isn't part of its mediocre sales, but in VR, MetaQuest is the platform to make money on, and on Quest 2 it is still the most sold to date VR headset with around 20 million sold. I also saw in the comments that Nexus being a PSVR 2 exclusive is bad. That shows how much people actually know or care about the given subject. Not to mention a lackluster marketing campaign. Many people didn't even know the game existed, or it was already out. For me, launching Near Asgard's Wrath 2 was an overshadowing moment, as that's a game I personally looked forward to more than Nexus. Closing off, moving forward will be interesting as Ubisoft still has Just Dance VR in the works, which was originally a Pico exclusive. Now it's moved to another partner and they still haven't disclosed who yet, but I'm leaning on Meta, as dancing on standalone rather than tethered would make the most sense. Ubisoft should still release Just Dance, as they just stated that the future and further investments are halted until VR gets a larger user base. Going forward, it will be interesting if any other companies develop for VR. A game like Metro Awakening VR are funded by Meta, as this is one of the 5 games slated to come to Quest. As long as Meta acts like the sugar daddy and to fund the projects for VR games, it should get ever increasingly popular. Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the topic. If you liked the video, drop a like, comment your thoughts. I'm interested what you think on a topic like this, and subscribe for more content about VR and MetaQuest. That's it. See ya.